The Cubs continue to roll on, tra-la, as they get a big 3-2 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates at the friendly confines last night. On the south side, the White Sox lose 2 out of 3 to the Houston Astros, but GM Chris Getz is making moves like it's going out of style. We'll give you our thoughts and opinions coming up. In basketball, the Indiana Pacers are there for real as they take Game 3 of the NBA Finals against the Oklahoma City Thunder. In the Stanley Cup Finals, are you watching? Are you watching? We're heading towards a 7-game clash. Lakeena will have our USA Open PGA Tour update, and we'll pay tribute to 2 legends that contributed to music, culture, and entertainment. That and a whole lot more as Second City Sports Friday Funk Edition starts right now. Welcome to this latest edition of the hashtag Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports So Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Warp Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Warp Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2-hour extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to try and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid. I've given Lakeena full powers to give you Dumbos to be able to boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to the live gang that's checking us out right now on our Facebook and YouTube pages at Sports Zone Chicago at 24 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, much love to the replay gang that's checking us out right now, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. And don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, and entertainment, minus the politics. We will always provide.
And we invite you to the best here on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll recap a competitive Game 4 in the Stanley Cup Final as it's down to a best of 3. Can the Thunder tie their series in the NBA Finals against the Pacers tonight? We'll also have some sports media news. We'll have because we have a final air date on Lee Corso's final College Game Day appearance and with the headgear. Also, U.S. Open update from Oakmont. We'll pay tribute to a few people who have who put their stamp on music and even a little bit of sports and entertainment in some cases. So we'll have all that and so much more. But first, Sid, let's talk some baseball. Let's switch up a little bit and talk some White Sox first because the White Sox actually made a trade. This unfortunately after they lose 2 out of 3 in Houston, but this happened early this morning. Andrew Vaughn to the celebration of however you want to call it. He's been traded to Milwaukee for Aaron Savall, and we'll talk about the Savall thing in a second here. But Andrew Vaughn, that he's going to go to Milwaukee. We know he's had his struggles here with the White Sox in the last 4 or 5 years, and other struggles as well, especially this year. But but Chris gets a trade made for reliever. We'll talk about the backstory behind that in a second. But Sid, what do you think about the trade?
It was about time. I'm not saying that Andrew Vaughn's a bad guy because he's not. Because he's I know he did well with the community here in Chicago, so he's going to take that wherever he goes. But as far as him being a baseball player, It's another failed draft pick in the Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams era. He was the first pick, I believe, in the 2019 draft. He was supposed to be the heir apparent to Jose Abreu when he left after the 2022 season, but it just didn't come about. Andrew Vaughn did contribute nicely as a role player during that 2021 season when the White Sox won the AL Central, but after 2022, his numbers just dipped. He was given every opportunity to take the bull by the horns, and he just didn't do it. And what made me had the last straw with Andrew Vaughn was I told you I was at that game at Wrigley last month doing the Cubs Sox series, and he did not run out a drop third strike, and of course he was benched the next day. It was cover up saying that he just quote unquote needed a day off, but we all knew there was a benching, and rightfully so. You're a veteran in this league, you're not supposed to do that, but it's another player with unfulfilled expectations that were not met here. You've seen all the guys that are no longer on this team from that 2021 team. The only one that's currently in the league is Johan Moncada. He's barely hanging on to a job with the LA Angels, but Tim Anderson no longer on the team, no longer in the league. Eloy Jimenez barely in the minor league system with the Tampa Bay Rays. Lucas Giolito struggling with the Boston Red Sox. Any other person, Dallas Keuchel was brought in. He's no longer in baseball. So all those guys that were integral parts of that 2021 team, obviously they're no longer on the White Sox, and many of them that I just mentioned no longer in baseball.
Yeah, so that's a whole, and this was actually a team that could have was competing for the ALCS just a few years ago. A lot of parts of that squad, so now a lot of them are gone. Vaughn was like one of the last folks from that. So interesting to see what happens here. We'll, wish him nothing but the best for the Brewers. Now the Aaron Savale thing is interesting because he actually demanded a trade. He just turned 30 yesterday, and he demanded a trade because he didn't want to move to the bullpen. The Brewers were trying to move him to the bullpen because he's had his struggles. He's 1-2 with a ERA of just under 5, and they were gonna actually move to the bullpen, but and then he demanded a trade, and instead, of course, that the Brewers obliged. They're gonna send him an $807,000 of his salary to the White Sox. In that trade, part of that trade too. So I guess he has a overall career record of 40-37 with a 4.06 ERA. So you get a guy that isn't the best, but he actually does 8 innings. So that's what you need with the White Sox. So we'll see if he can what he can do with them once he joins the team.
Hopefully he can eat up innings like the White Sox want him to do. Hopefully he has a better attitude than he did in Milwaukee. I remember him. He was pitching with the Cleveland Indians at the time a few years ago. So like you said, he's a veteran that's a slightly above 500 with his record for his career. He's kind of been having an up and down career. And so we'll see what happens. As we said before, we'll say it again for this year for the White Sox. It's not about the wins and losses. It's about, again, the young core of this team set for next year and perhaps the year after that. Who could play, who cannot, who's going to be for the long haul, who's not going to be here for the long haul. Aaron Savale, his opportunity, perhaps his last opportunity to save his career is now. So the White Sox will have him come in, eat up some innings. We'll see what he does. You see what Adrian Hauser has done for this White Sox team in his first 4 or 5 starts. They picked him up from the scrap heap. And Shane Smith, we'll talk about him on the other side of this break. He's been a godsend for the White Sox. He actually picked up the lone win in that Houston series, and who should be an all-star. So the White Sox, at least so far, have a track record of picking up pitchers from the scrap heap and giving them opportunities, and they've taken full advantage of it.
All right, real quick as we go. I know we're up against it, but yeah, let's talk a little bit of the Cubs real quick. The Cubs was a tough series in Philly. Of course, they lose 2 out of 3 there. Ian Happ did homer twice in that first game. That's how they won that one. But unfortunately, they lost the last 2. Of course, Schwarber hit a couple home runs there in those last 2 wins there. Well, no, the Tuesday one when they won that game. But yeah, they did win their opener against Pittsburgh, including a really cool home run by PCA out of the zone, which is for his 18th home run. They actually do face Paul Skeens, so that'll be interesting. There, it's actually going to be, I think, the 12th time that they've faced him, which is a major league leading high. And Cade Horton, who's been the subject of trade rumors, we'll talk about that after the break. But yeah, so it's gonna be interesting what happens. They've actually, he had his number on both fronts. So, the 6 is gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be the 6th time they're gonna be facing each other. So, against schemes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think they're about pretty much even. So they've actually had Scheme's number. So yeah, what do you think about the Cubs this week?
They should have won that first game on Monday, where they lost in extra innings. I know Zach Wheeler was dealing for the Phillies, but you got to find ways to be good pitching. The home run is not always going to be there. You got to have stolen bases outside of PCA. You got to hit and run. And you have to bunt every once in a while. I know bunt is a curse word in today's game, but you have to do that every once in a while to generate some runs, especially off of good pitchers like Zach Wheeler. Ben Brown, as we talked about in our last few shows, we thought that he turned the corner, but hopefully he'll learn from what he did this past Wednesday. It was a bump in the road. Hopefully that he can bounce back in his next start coming up next week. I believe when the Milwaukee Brewers will be coming to town to take on the Cubs. So the Cubs hopefully had some hard lessons in Philadelphia. Hope they learn from them. We'll talk about more about the bullpen, who I think should be an all-star for this Cubs team coming up after the break. But for what happened to them in Philadelphia, hopefully they can learn them less as well, learn them in a hurry, because you have a Pittsburgh team coming in here. You got out to a nice start last night. We'll see what they can do against Paul Skeens coming up later today and for the remainder 2 games of this weekend series. They need to get back on track, and what an opponent they can that they're facing in Pittsburgh to get back on track.
All right, so we're going to take a really quick break about that. And of course, we'll talk about Tariq Skubal as he continues to to deal for Detroit. It's going to be interesting to see what happens the rest of baseball. The Red Sox and Yankees face each other again. And also, too, some interesting news and nuggets here from baseball as well. And also the All-Star, and also some interesting trade rumors. Chris Sale coming to the Cubs. We'll have that and all that, so much more coming next to Lakeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Soul Chicago. We have more Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
How long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Okay, is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe. But some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
When I'm flying, I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am, but I'm African American, Asian American, Hispanic, white, male or female. You just know I'm an American airman kicking your butt. I'm General C.Q. Brown Jr. Come join us.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
And if you have any questions about the Cubs, the White Sox, or the rest of Major League Baseball from this past week, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you as we wrap up our Cubs discussion.
All right, now the Cubs, of course, like I said, Ian Happ, of course, had a couple of home runs in that series. PCA hit a nice home run, like I said, yesterday. So with that, marking that, first game of that 4-gamer against Pittsburgh. So we'll see what they do here with that. So we'll see what happens there. Shota Imanaga is going to have his first bullpen session, his first session this week. So hopefully this weekend. So hopefully he's going to be on the road to coming back to the team and such. So we'll see what happens with that. Now let's talk about the rest of baseball. Yesterday,
real quick, Lakeena.
Right.
Yeah, real quick, Lakeena. I wanted to point out the stats about the Cubs bullpen real quick. And this was after last night's win. 92.2 innings pitched. They're giving up 66 hits, 9 earned runs, 2 home runs, 6 saves total, 1 blown save since May the 14th. And they have a 0.88 ERA. And I know Ryan Presley got the save last night. I wanted to ask you, is Ryan Presley back being the Cubs closer, or you still want to give him more time?
Yeah, I think he's coming back. I thought that maybe he's probably had to adjust, but he's been really solid for the Cubs so far. So since he he was kind of in the doghouse for a little bit when he first got here. So he's been really pretty good for him. And Jamison Tyon has been really solid as well. And 8 of his last 6 starts, he has not given up He's only given up, I think, like 1 or 2 runs total. In his last earned runs, I should say, in his last few starts. So he started to get it going too. And the pitch has been really solid for them. Kind of keeping it together with, of course, Steele being out for the year. And of course, Shota, like I said, hopefully he'll be back soon. So they're kind of below there. But so far, everything has been really solid now. Cade Horton, of course, he's going to start against Schemes in a little bit here. And I guess he's been listed as a trade rumors because I guess there was a trade proposal that former White Sox current Braves pitcher Chris Sale. We know that the Braves have been struggling this season. Of course, some people have said that maybe perhaps you could probably trade Horton to the Atlanta, bring back Chris Sale. I don't know if you want to do that, especially if it's only going to be like a 1-year thing. I know people say, yeah, you got to give up, maybe you have to give up one of your top prospects. But again, you got to think long-term here. And we know that Tom Brady doesn't like to spend money. So I don't know if you're going to want to do that. But I see, like I said, I'm sure there's going to be all types of trade rumors coming up in these next 5 or 6 weeks before the trade deadline. So Yeah. I mean, we'll see with all like the room. I'm sure he's not gonna be the only one. I'm sure Sale. I'm sure there's gonna be other guys that are gonna be subject of rumors. He'll come here to Chicago, but it'll be interesting. It was kind of fascinating that his name came up this week.
I want to pull that deal because, like you said, Lakeena, to get something good, you'll have to give us something good. I think the Cubs can look for something better in terms of starting pitching in the trade in the trade market. Chris Sale, I know he has a World Series ring from the 2018 Boston Red Sox team, but he's been injured the last few years. You know, when you have a lot of miles on those tires, they start to wear down. Chris Sale got injured toward the end of last year. Of course, the Braves did make the playoffs, but they could have used him in that quick 2-game sweep against the San Diego Padres last year. Obviously, he didn't pitch. So Chris said, we'll give you some innings, but at the stage of his career, you don't know when he's going down with the injury. Heaven forbid that happens. So I'm not going to give up the fun. And I think it's a free agent after this summer. I'm not sure about that, but I'm not going to give up the future for a 2 or 3 month rental, and heaven forbid he gets injured. Well, there goes your future and there goes your present. I know we have to move on to the rest of baseball. I want to ask you real quick about Jameson Taillon, especially given the way he's been pitching since mid-May. Do you think that he's an all-star? I think so.
I think so. I think he's definitely earned it. I think he's been. This is probably, and I think he said this is like the best he's pitched, since since being moved to being a starter. Remember, he started off as a bullpen guy, so the fact that he's starting to find his rhythm, he's been, been like I say, he's been really good. He had another like 10 strikeouts yesterday, so last night in that game. So yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, we'll see if they can 7 strikeouts, I should say. Yesterday, only 2 earned runs and only 4 hits, which is actually not bad because he pitched about a little over 6 innings. But yeah, I think he's definitely earned the right to start. It'll be like right there. So yeah, again, if he can keep it up for these next couple of starts before the break, I'm sure we'll see him down there in Atlanta.
And we talked about with Justice Steele being out for the year. Shota Imanaga, hopefully he'll be back by the end of this month or not by July the 4th. Quietly, Jameson Taillon has been doing the job. He leads the team in wins, 7 wins, 3 losses. I know he's given up 16 long balls this year, but he has 65 strikeouts to 16 walks. And I think the ERA is above 3.5, but he's been pitching well lately. So, like you said, he does not dominates in his next 2 or 3 starts to end the month of June. That ERA is going to come down. Hopefully, he can have another couple of wins, and if that's the case, he should be. So, I believe the Cubs have 4 all-stars right now: Jameson Taillon, Pete Crow Armstrong, Kyle Tucker, and Seiya Suzuki.
Yeah, I think you probably say those are probably the 4 probably right now for the Cubs. So like I said, we'll see what happens. But like I said, it's still a few weeks up before in voting. So if you guys want to support the Cubs, and on the White Sox too, I think you could probably say that one of the see a couple of those guys there. So we'll see what happens. Now we can go to the rest of baseball as Therese Skubal continues to pitch lights out. He had 7 shutout innings as a get the series against Baltimore. He posted a 31.67 K walk ratio. For those of you, that's 95 to 3 over his last 11 starts. He's the first pitcher in the modern era to post that a 30 plus K to strikeout or higher in the 11 start span with no relief appearances during that stretch. So he's definitely, you got to think he's definitely the leader of clubhouse to get back-to-back AL Cy Youngs. And Detroit has actually been playing very well. Of course, they won that series against the Cubs early this late last weekend. And now, of course, he went 2 out of 3. They're going to be facing the Reds this weekend. So, yeah, he's been playing very well. And Detroit's been playing very well, too, as a whole.
Yeah, we talked about it all year. The offense, even though it doesn't scare you on paper, they still have some boppers in their lineup. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, who had that 3 home run game against the White Sox a couple weeks ago. Of course, you still had Zach Benkisich, one-time former Cub from a couple years ago, as a utility guy coming off the bench. Javi Baez, former Cub, who's having a comeback type of a year. I know he started at his old position at shortstop last night. He went 2 for 4 with scoring a run. But AJ Hinch has these guys playing well. We talked about the star rotation. You mentioned with Skubal. Jack Flaherty got back on track with his win against the Cubs last Sunday afternoon. And I told you I liked the Tigers bullpen last year. I like him more this year. Tommy Kahnle, White Sox fans, you know that name for a hot minute. He's been doing the job. He did it again last night with a hold. And, of course, Will Vest, their closer, is shutting it down. So the Tigers, you can legitimately say they're the best team in the American League next to the New York Yankees, who we'll get into in a second. But the Tigers, as I said before, they're going to be the only team coming out of this AL Central Division with a playoff spot. I still believe that to this point.
Minnesota, yeah, it did help them, for Minnesota. They lost 2 out of 3 against Texas, and they got their butts kicked in that last game of the series, 16-3. The Guardians, the Guardians lose 2 out of 3 to Cincy. So, that pretty much kind of sums it up there for that. And the Royals, just when we thought the Royals were starting to figure things out, they do get swept by the Yankees, of course, losing a tough one. The pitchers duel 1-0. Speaking of the Yankees, Pablo Reyes, he scrambled, on there. He was, he stumbled, he was stopped, and then he, scrambled, but he came home safely, and that ended up being the only run for the Yankees. It could try to be the only one that they needed. Now, Aaron Judge actually had a home run in that middle series, the second game of that series, and he has a 390 plus batting average. He has 28 home runs right now. He has 46 walks and 6 stolen bases. He's the only other player in MLB history to have those types of numbers in a 66 game span in a single season. Babe Ruth did it 4 times, so choice of good company there. Now going to transitioning, talking about the Yankees, looks like Yankees are starting to kind of put a little bit of distance between themselves in that AL East.
Yeah, I think so. With that starting pitcher we talked about with Carlos Rodon, and of course Max Fried is starting to get his feet wet, who they acquired from the Atlanta Braves during the offseason. Now their starting pitcher looks like it took a little step back last week, but it looks like it's finally starting to get back on track. You mentioned with Aaron Judge, he's having a monstrous year. Let's not forget about Trent Grisham, I should say, their center fielder, who's swinging the bat very well, but he's playing a heck of a center field. And of course, you have Cody Bellinger, who could play the outfield and plays first base at the same time. And hopefully they can get Giancarlo Stanton back, who has not played all year. And I told you he was the MVP of the ALCS series last year against the Cleveland Guardians. We know what he could do with him and Judge are in the lineup at the same time, both healthy. So the Yankees are putting them distance between themselves and the rest of that division. Toronto, I know they're above 500 finally. Hopefully they can keep it up. Boston, they still having their problems. So of course, Alex Bregman's injury does not help at all. Even though Rafi Davis says, "Kiss my bat," everybody else is struggling around him. So the Yankees, as I mentioned, have it going on right now. It's between them and Detroit, in my opinion, for the best team in the American League.
Yep. So we'll see. And Houston, we'll go to the rest of Houston. Of course, they went 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. Paredes hit a solo home run that broke the game open there. Now Altuve had 2 doubles and 2 RBIs in the rubber match of that series yesterday. So they get that series. Seattle, they got swept by the D-backs. And unfortunately, even though Cal Raleigh's been still hitting the ball well, just like the rest of the team, hasn't, it's going through a slump, unfortunately. So I'm not too worried about Seattle right now, but they've lost, I think 9 of their last 10. So I'm a little concerned about them. They're still 4.5 back, but I think they need to get it together, and they need to get it together quick.
Yeah, you take a look at the AL West. So Houston has separated themselves. Even they had starts to the season. We talked about Seattle. They have these lulls where they barely could score any runs. They have the pitching, but their offense has kind of been up and down all years. Texas has really been the disappointing team all year. Hopefully they get to turn it around. We know about the Oakland A's of Sacramento, as we called them on this show. They still have some nice young talent, but they don't have enough to get over that 500 mark. I'm really interested to see what Texas will do at the trade deadline. Will they start selling off guys that they don't turn around by the end of this month? And Seattle, almost the same position. Maybe they'll benefit from Houston if Houston doesn't take off between now and the end of the month. But I'm worried about Seattle, and I'm more so about Texas, because Texas has the better offensive talent on their roster than the Seattle Mariners do, and for some reason they haven't put it together consistently.
Yeah, so definitely something to look out for there in the AL West. Going to the NL West, the Dodgers win 2 out of 3 against the Padres, much to our buddy Herb Lawrence's chagrin.
Congrats to
Teoscar,
Herb's and his beautiful wife on moving into a new home.
so not a bad week for Herb, even though his Padres lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. Teoscar Hernandez, he had a go ahead home run and a 3-run home run at both those wins, so he's starting to kind of get it going there for the Dodgers. And it'll be interesting to see, like I said, the Dodgers. They're going to be playing some of their rivals in their division. They play the Giants starting tonight, and the Giants. Speaking of, they just really thought that maybe the Giants have been left for dead. They win 2 out of 3 against the Rockies, so they're still in the NL West here. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But I think it's definitely gonna. But I think the Dodgers will end up winning that division eventually. So we'll see there. And of course, the D-bats, of course, they swept the Mariners. But Corbin Carroll did have he already has like 4 games with multiple homers and multiple triples. So he actually had one against the Mariners during that series. And the last Major League player to do that, to have at least 4 multi-home run games, 2 multi-triple games over an entire season. You got to go all the way back to Willie Mays, 50 years ago. So no, 70 years ago, I should say. So so he joins good company there. Now, even though their pitching might take a little bit of a hit, so I don't know if the Diamondbacks can hang in there and compete for that wild card spot. But that West is getting still a bit interesting.
If it wasn't for the Dodgers' injuries and their starting pitching struggles, the San Diego Padres and the Diamondbacks will be trailing the Dodgers in bigger deficits in terms of games back. But as we talked about before the season started, Lakeena, we talk about it again here now. The Dodgers, it's all about them getting healthy to potentially go on the long playoff run. The way they won the World Series last year, putting all the healthy pieces together with their pitching staff, the bullpen, and the starting staff. You're not going to bank on that again. It doesn't happen, especially in the game of baseball. I know Clayton Kershaw is back. I know he looked well enough in his last start last weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals. I know Shohei Ohtani is supposed to be back on the mound sometime after the All-Star break. He's starting Corbin Burns being gone for the year for the Diamondbacks, so they have to find some starting pitching. Corbin Carroll, one of the best young hitters in the game, so he has to keep it up. But their starting pitching, including Zach Gallen, he has to turn around because he's been having a not so good year. Of course, the Padres, I thought that series was big for them. The Dodgers really didn't need this series, but the Dodgers did enough, like they always do in the later innings, to get by the Padres. So I think the Padres are okay, but they got to find some way to beat the Dodgers this year. Of course, Colorado stings, and the Giants, just like you said, we thought that we left them for dead. They find their way back. Despite losing that series finale at Colorado yesterday, it happens, but it looks like the San Francisco Giants, they're doing more than just training above water. I'm not saying they're going to win the division and all that, but they're going to be a team that's going to give their opponents problems from here on out.
Yeah, the West is going to be still going to be interesting for a little bit here. Now going to the Central, the Cardinals, we'll see if we see the last of them. Of course, they got swept by the Blue Jays. The Brewers, they're starting to kind of get going a little bit. They split. They lost 2 out of 3 against Atlanta. They did win last night against the Cardinals, so we'll see if they can kind of get it going there. Of course, we talked about the Savale in that era, Savale in that trade to the White Sox. So we'll see if maybe Savale changes Yuri could help him. We'll see if Vaughn can make a difference for the Brewers. There, they'll go into the East. The Mets have won 5 in a row. Now 6 in a row, I should say. Now, granted, these have been against the Rockies and the Nationals, so you don't want to, again, you don't want to, pad these states as like padding the wins, I guess, because these are against 2 of the worst teams. But look, Alonso's been hitting the ball very well. So, I think that I'm not, I'm kind of not there with that just yet. I don't think they're going to run away with that division. I know the Phillies, I know Cubs fans were miffed about that Phillies series, but they needed that series more than the Cubs did, because they had lost like 7 of their last 9. But before the Cubs series, so they really needed that win. So I'm not going to give the Mets I know Mets are up 5.5, but I'm not giving them I'm not going to go give them the division just yet.
And the team that I'm worried about is the Atlanta Braves, we talked about the Chris Sale, Caden Horton potential trade, in which I'm not in favor of. If you're a Cubs fan, they may be selling out some other pieces if they don't get it turned around here quickly. But going back to the Mets, I watched the majority of that game yesterday against the Washington Nationals in that series finale. Like you said, they won 6 in a row. Their bullpen almost gave it away. Kodai Senga, who started the game yesterday for New York, he went out with an injury to his hamstring. I know Carlos Mendoza, the Mets manager, says that obviously he was mad and he's going to be out for a while. But it's the next man up mentality. No one's going to feel sorry for us. He's absolutely right. Teams go through injuries all the time, but it's got to be man.
Yeah, I mean the Phillies are starting to trying to hang in there without Bryce Harper. So I think he should be back for this series against Toronto. We'll talk about the schedule in a second. So we'll be interested to see what happens with the Phillies. I think the Phillies. I think I'm not going to give the Mets that NL East division just yet. So, but yeah, I think if the Phillies, I think you need to kind of look. They face Toronto, rematch of the '93 World Series. Well, we'll talk about that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of. The Phillies can,
I'm Joe Carter.
Yeah, no, Mitch Williams. So, but yeah. So I'm interested to see if the Phillies if the Phillies can have a good rest of this month, win. At least if they could just win their series and be right there for with the Mets. The Mets. We'll talk about schedule in a second here, but yeah, I think in the Phillies. I'm not gonna give the Phillies there just yet, but if the Phillies can kind of get it going here, maybe they could give the Mets be right there and be kind of a thorn on the Mets side in the NL East.
Yeah, we talked about it all year, Lakeena, with the bullpen, and even before the Jose Alvarado suspension, the Phillies bullpen has not been good. It's been in shambles, and it's been okay thus far. But I think they need to add another guy to their bullpen at the trade deadline. You mentioned without Bryce Harper, they still have a dynamite not lineup with JT Realmuto as the catcher. And let's not forget about Nick Castellanos. Tom Berman don't call his games when he hits a home run. I digress. But also, too, you have Trey Turner in that lineup and Brandon Marsh. I think he got hurt in that Cubs series. So the Philadelphia still has some boppers in the lineup. So they're still a dangerous team offensively. They just got to get the back end of that starting rotation, and they got to straighten out that issue with the bullpen.
Yeah, because they lost their top bullpen guy for the year, for PED. So yeah, but definitely something we're probably gonna be looking at before the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens there. Now going into the schedule for this weekend, of course, Pittsburgh and the Cubs, of course, they continue their series. They continue that series. Of course, that's gonna be on MLB Network, except for those of you in Pittsburgh and Chicago. Miami and the Nationals, they start their series. As I said, Toronto and Philadelphia, the rematch of the '93 World Series. That'll be interesting. Vote there. You got the Angels and the Orioles. The first.
Where's Lenny Dykstra?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or Crucky. Where's Sean Crucky when you need him? He might be calling.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm sure. Keep the swear words down to a minimum there, Crucky. Angels and Orioles. The first game of the Apple TV Plus doubleheader, if you will. Cincinnati and Detroit. Yankees and Red Sox. 6:10 on MLB Network. Okay, again. Tampa Bay and the Mets. Colorado and Atlanta, and of course the White Sox, and they continue their Texas way down to Arlington, facing the Rangers.
Trash throws, as Sean Sierra will call them. St. Louis will continue their night double in the NL West battle there. Cleveland will visit Lakeena Seattle Mariners. And the second half of the MLB Network doubleheader tonight will feature the NL West dynamic matchup between the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers.
And of course, your TV schedule, the Marlins Nationals, that series will be on MLB Network tomorrow at noon. The FS1 game of the week tomorrow will be St. Louis and Milwaukee. And the Fox Saturday baseball game, you got the most of the WHO will very likely get Yankees and the Red Sox. Those of you out west will get the Padres and the D-backs. And of course, the MLB game will be at 9:10 tomorrow night. You got San Francisco and the Dodgers. Excuse me. Your Roku TV matchup for Sunday at 11:05. You got Cincinnati and Detroit. Your MLB Network games. Of course, the Yankees and the Red Sox finishing up their series. Toronto and Philadelphia finish up their series as well at the same time. 3:10. You got the Guardians and the Mariners. And your Sunday Night Baseball game of the week on ESPN will feature the Giants and the Dodgers. Yeah, it's not a shocker. No Yankees and the Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball. That's a shocker.
For 2 weeks in a row, who doesn't want the old school East Coast rivalry?
And that's
Lakeena said that's your schedule for.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, that's your schedule. That's your schedule for the MLB series this weekend. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 following these messages. Are the Indiana Pacers for real, or can Oklahoma City rebound with a big Game 4 performance tonight in the Stanley Cup Final? We are fit to be tied. Are we headed for a classic 7-game series? Lakeena will have her PGA Golf Tour U.S. Open update, and we pay homage to 2 legends that contributed to music, culture, and entertainment. That and a whole lot more. And MLB players are talking to. We'll let you know what they said anonymously. That and a whole lot more. It's a Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Continues after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Time out. How are you feeling right now? Happy? Excited? Angry? Overwhelmed? One of the best things you can do for your mind health is to name what you're feeling. It can sharpen your awareness and help you talk about your feelings with someone you trust. Here are 3 questions to ask yourself. Where are your thoughts right now? In the past, the present, the future? Do you notice any sensations in your body? Is your heart beating fast? Is there a flutter in your stomach? Or are you fully relaxed? What do you need right now? Time with others? Time to yourself? Remember, there's power in this awareness. So find ways to identify what you're feeling today.
At a time when the news seems as subjective as the partisan politics dividing this country, independent professional journalism has become a resource people need to get the honest and accurate information for their lives. That's why I created JQuinnReports.com. As a born and raised Chicagoan, I know this city better than anyone. So my investigative stories are all original, and they'll go deeper to expose the truth by using information obtained from public information databases and in-depth interviews with the movers and shakers. My future stories will introduce you to people and businesses who are changing the world, not just Chicago. My missing person stories will spotlight those who you don't hear about in the mainstream media, who are often overlooked. If you want to hear my personal views on things around the world, check out my blog site, which is based off of factual information on my life experiences. There's also past episodes of my weekly sports podcast show, What's Up Cuz, that I host with my real-life cousin, Lance Urban. So if you're looking for all this information and more, check out jcoinreports.com and follow me on Twitter at jcoin.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Funk edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I ain't Cindy Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Lakeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
As we dive into some NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals talk, if you have any questions or comments for us regarding those two subjects, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section of the kid, and we'll get the up of the screen for you.
A must-win game for, I guess you could say, both teams, and I'll say what I mean about that in a second here. But recapping Game 3, of course, the Pacers. It was really, their bench guys that made some big contributions here. 27 points from Ben Mathurin, which is a playoff career high for him. He also was, 9 for 12 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3-point range. He's actually a first bench guy. That's actually one of the highest point totals for a bench guy. TJ McConnell also had 10 points off the bench. Of course, Halliburton had 22. Siakam had 21. So it was basically a nice team win for the Pacers. On the flip side, for OKC, 24 points for SGA, 26 for Jalen Williams. Chet Holmgren had 20. But that was about it. Of course, Luke Dort had 12 points, but that was about it for points rise for them. And and of course, SGA, don't ask him about late game fatigue, because he basically said there was no excuses for that. He said he even said, hey, look, you gotta suck it up. So can it suck it up and even the series, Sid?
They're gonna have to tonight, in my opinion. You mentioned with the Oklahoma City bench, outside of Alex Caruso. They really did get anything from that bench, in my opinion, in Game 3. Isaiah Hartenstein, why did Coach Mark Daigneault take him out of the starting lineup before this series? I will never know for the life of me, but Isaiah Hartenstein only had 18 minutes of action with 4 points and 3 rebounds. He's going to have to step it up, especially defensively. As we preview this series a couple of weeks ago, we said that it's going to him and Chet Holmgren is going to have to dominate with inside the paint. Holmgren has stepped it up ever since Game 2, but Isaiah Hartenstein has really given you nothing coming off the bench. So he's going to have to do more. And also, too, Lakeena, the turnovers for OKC, they got ratcheted up in Game 3. We talked about OKC being the top defensive efficiency team in the league all year, and they have been during the regular season. They have been that top defensive team overall in the playoffs, but Game 3, Indiana took a page out of their playbook and forced major turnovers, especially in the later stages of that game. So for Oklahoma City, I'm looking for them, especially scoring-wise, to get more contributions, both Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. You're muted, Lakeena.
I don't know how I did that, but yeah,
here we go.
Yeah, you're a rookie here, Lakeena. But yeah, on that Game 3, Indiana had a player with 25 plus points on 75% shooting. That was for third. He shot 77%. Had a player with 20 plus points and 10 plus assists. Halliburton had 11 assists. 20 plus points, then 0 turnovers. That was Siakam. Miles Turner had 6 blocks. 6 steals by TJ McConnell. Never had 5 teammates accomplish those 5 feats in any NBA game, postseason or even the regular season. Turnovers weren't first tracked, since 1978. So, really big. I wouldn't say it was an upset, but I think there were a lot of people probably thought that OKC would probably blow the Pacers out of the water. I guess, look, some of y'all probably don't watch a lot of basketball because the Pacers have done this to teams all season long, especially since after the All-Star break. So for people that not now, folks, you guys are seeing that we've been talking about when we talked about the Pacers, that this is a Pacers that has good team chemistry. They play team basketball, and we'll see what happens tonight because I gotta. Look, you're not going to give a third to score 27 points. That's just not going to happen. So I think, Rick Carlisle knows that he's got to get other guys to contribute as well. And they have been. So, as for OKC, Caruso, you can do a little bit more, dude. I mean, look, we've seen you do that here in Chicago for years. So you got to get yourself going here. Guys like, I don't know, like Isaiah Joe, he only had 6 points. You could do a little bit more. So you just got to get, look, I think that what the Pacers are trying to do is that, look, let SGA get his shots, let Williams get his shots, and Chet, if he's good, get his shots. Just lock down everybody else, and that's what the Pacers were able to do that. They only scored 18 points in the fourth quarter. That's not gonna win you a lot of games.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena here with you. Now we're going to preview tonight's Game 4 of the NBA Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you have any questions or comments for us, any predictions on tonight's game, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you. Lakeena, going into Game 4 tonight. Before we go into Game 4 predictions tonight, you mentioned about the Pacers playing well as a team. They can slow it down, or they could play fast pace. They rather play at their pace at a fast pace. Tyrese Halliburton, he got some shots off not last night, on Wednesday night, especially in the later stages of the game. The Oklahoma City Thunder could not guard the three-point line. They couldn't guard that screen and roll to save their lives. That's how Halliburton gets most of his shots. That little screen roll at the top of the key, whether it's Miles Turner or somebody else, then he frees himself to shoot that three-point shot. Also, too, you mentioned about TJ McCollum. I've been talking about him throughout these playoffs. He did a terrific job in the conference finals against the Knicks. He's been doing a tremendous job against the Thunder in this series. He takes care of the basketball. He doesn't turn it over. Even though he didn't shoot the ball well on Wednesday, only 3 of 8, he still found his way to contribute offensively, scoring 10 points. And also, too, Miles Turner, I know he's been up and down in this series, but I like to see him have a monster game. And like I said, Pascal Siakam, he could do a little bit more, which I think he will tonight. So you mentioned the Pacers play well as a well-run oiled machine, and you had to give head coach Rick Carlisle credit for that.
Yes, you really do. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're the Thunder, you want to set the pace. I know the Pacers, the Thunder wants to slow it down. So I think you're going to have to perhaps maybe try to slow it down to see if you can get the Pacers to kind of take some shots that they usually may not take. So if you want to set the tone early, if you're the Thunder, they did do that, but it just didn't last. So I think if you want to set the pace and make sure it lasts, I think you got to do it for all 4 quarters. So the Thunder is going to have to get together here because you don't want to be down 3-1, but at the same time, though, if you're the Pacers, I've heard some people say that, well, maybe the Pacers may not want to have the Thunder win this game because it best of 3 and the way the format is, you may not want to do that. So I think if you're either team, you want to try to perhaps maybe see if you can set the tone or try to win the night. Because if you're the Pacers, like I said, this is not a 2-3-2-4. This is a 2-1-1-1 format, and there's not going to be a lot of days off in between. Because after this game, they play on Monday, so you don't get the extra days of rest. So whatever happens tonight, I think it's going to set the tone to see what happens the rest of the series.
Okay, one key factor or element that you're looking out for both teams. One for Oklahoma City, and one for Indiana for tonight.
OKC just need to hit their threes. I think that's all they really need to do. And then the Pacers, like I said, try to speed up the game because we know that that they're going to have to. They want to slow it down. So I think for the Thunder, you want to try to see if you can be consistent throughout. And if you're the Pacers, you want to try to set the pace early.
For me, for Oklahoma City, as I talked about earlier, I want to see them get more contributions from their bench. Number 2, they have to take care of the basketball. They did not do that in Game 3, especially in the later stages of that fourth quarter. For Indiana, as you mentioned, keep up with the pace and with the fast break basketball. Fast break points, they had a +7 advantage. I'm talking about the Pacers on Wednesday, 17-10. So keep pushing the pace and make Oklahoma City have their legs ready for baggage claim when they go back to OKC for Monday's Game 5. So for the Indiana Pacers, also too, keep sharing the ball because they didn't do that in Game 1. They got away with it, but they've been doing that these last couple of games, and of course they had a +8 advantage in terms of total assists for the game at 24-16. So for Indiana, continue to share the basketball, continue to play at your pace. For Oklahoma City, take care of that basketball and get more contributions from your bench.
And if you're Indiana, if look, they issued the ball well for three. They only were 9 for 22 from 3-point range on Wednesday, so you were able to get away with that. But you may not want to make that a habit. So we'll see what happens. Of course, Game 4 will be tonight at 7:30 on ABC. So we'll talk about that after the game on Monday and preview Game 4. Will we previewing perhaps maybe if the Pacers trying to win their first NBA title, or will it be a pivotal Game 5 where who will take control of the series? So we'll see what happens here as the Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Steve Brown with you now. Some non-NBA finals.
Who you have winning tonight? Quickly.
I think OKC does just not to win to even the series out.
I'll go with OKC as well.
All right, so non-NBA finals news here. Reps for KD and the Suns are considering trade options. So let's see here now. You got to think Houston. Of course, we talked about Houston. They've been such a lot of trade rumors the last few weeks here since they got eliminated. Now again, Minnesota. Remember, Minnesota, they were very close to getting him during the trade deadline. So that made the most sense. San Antonio, maybe. The Heat, we'll see if Pat Riley can find another pick somewhere, and also maybe we'll talk about the Knicks in a second. So, what do you think?
I kind of like the San Antonio factor because Victor Wembanyama is going to be healthy to start next year. Remember, he missed the second half of the year. Remember, the Spurs were around 500 at the time. They were seriously in contention to participate in the play-in tournament, but after Wembanyama went down, that was a wrap for them. But you still have Chris Paul there. You still have Harrison Barnes, the veteran. You still got Stefan Vassell, who I believe won Rookie of the Year. So, and you still have Keldon Johnson. So you have some nice young pieces with a couple of veterans mixed around. So, however, can San Antonio get that deal done? I think Durant will be huge for San Antonio. Obviously, they'll take a huge jump to being contenders to actually participate in the playoffs. So I think that San Antonio, in my opinion, makes the most sense. Miami, what do they have left? Like you said, Pat Riley, does he have another draft pick stuck in Abby's old drawers somewhere? Shout out Mike Murphy. Does he? Pat Riley has an extra draft pick somewhere. The New York Knicks, I don't think they have enough to give him up. They could have had him several years ago, as we all know, but him and Kyrie didn't want to go there. But that's all news for a whole nother time. But in Houston, we had to part with Jalen Green and or somebody else in a couple of draft picks. If you're Houston, you have the most assets, in my opinion. Will you have to give up too much to get a 36, 37-year-old shooting star who barely could play 50, 60 games? So that's the main question if you're a Houston Rockets fan. So I think San Antonio will make the most sense, but we've seen stranger things happen. So this is just the beginning of the potential saga.
Now the thing is that the Rockets and the Spurs. I mean, yeah, the Rockets, they were in the top, the second seed, but they show that they're not ready yet. So that's a little bit of a problem if you're KD. Same thing with the Spurs too. I know when we got hurt, of course, Mitch Johnson's over there coaching now, so we'll see. But again, they're not ready to win. If you're KD and you're getting up there in age, you're gonna want to go to the place where you can win now. Miami, I don't know if they have anything, so they may not have anything to give to Phoenix. Minnesota, I think, like I said, I think Minnesota makes the most sense because they are ready to win now. They just need somebody to help out Ant. Now you might have to trade, maybe Julius Randle. Maybe if you they do have picks. So, Minnesota, they may have to trade one of those picks, for KD. Like I said, they were right there to get him. Of course, there was a last minute snafu. The Knicks, like I said, we'll get to the Knicks in a minute here, but they can't even get a coach right now. So, I think for me, Minnesota makes the most sense. But like I said, but I mean, it'll probably be a long time before before we get any news about KD. I know some people said they may get it done before the draft. I doubt it, but I think if you're KD, you want to go someplace where you can win. I think Minnesota's a place to go.
Minnesota makes the second most sense in my opinion. I know they had some major decisions to make this summer. I believe they had player options on both Julius Randle and I forgot who's the second guy, Jaden McDaniels. So Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle both have player options this summer. Will they be allowed to pick those up, or will they let them become free agents? And Alexander Walker, who had a nice playoff run as a sub coming off the bench, he's a full-blown free agent after July 1st. So you assume that he'll be gone, so they'll free up some cap space for a potential move for Kevin Durant. So, and maybe you throw Julius Randle or Jamie Daniels in there if you're Minnesota. We don't know, but I see your point with the Minnesota Timberwolves and Kevin Durant. I know Anthony Edwards busted them up in last year's playoffs. We talked about it. So, Minnesota, if you keep both Randle and or McDaniels, I think they'll be huge. But you had to get rid of both of them. I'm not sure, but I get it from a basketball perspective. It makes sense. But if you try to get rid of Julius Randle and keep Jane McDaniels, in my opinion, I think that will work. You still have Rudy Gobert. You still have Naz Reid. Don't forget about Dante DiVincenzo, which the Knicks could have used in this year's playoffs, by the way. So that's still a good squad. I still say San Antonio's the front runner, but like you said, Minnesota's not too far behind. They're neck and neck with the Spurs, in my opinion.
Now, the Knicks, unfortunately, I think the only person they have not asked to be there to speak to about their coach job has been the Pope, it seems, because everybody they've asked has said no. I mean, they've asked Chris, they've asked Minnesota, they've asked about Chris Finch. T was told him no. Houston, Ime Udoka, they told him no. The Bulls, for Billy Donovan, they told him no. They told him no. So basically, there's really
leave me alone.
Yeah, so basically there's no one else left. And I guess Taylor Jenkins, of course, who got the boot in Memphis. Of course, his name's being floated around there as well. But but yeah, I think New York, leave it to New York. You can get rid of Coach Tibbs, but you don't have a plan B. So go figure.
Yeah, from the outside aspect of it, the Knicks do look like a clown show thus far because they don't have a plan B or a plan C. As you mentioned with the Jason Kidd's scenario, looks like it's not going to play out in their favor. They're asking everybody around the league, and they turned them down. Here's the thing about the New York Knicks. We said this when Tibbs got fired. What's your plan? When you don't make moves like this unless you have a plan. And right now, the Knicks' plan is to hire somebody lesser than Coach Tibbs' resume. It's not going to go over well with your fan base. And we said this once, we'll say it again. The Knicks are in a 2-year window as far as winning the championship. We know the East is going to be down next year with Boston and Milwaukee, with Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum not playing next year, respectfully. Philadelphia, you may say they have an outside shot, but I don't think Joel Embiid is going to be ready for the start of next year. So Indiana and the Knicks are the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, at least on paper, heading to next year. If you're the Knicks, you got to take advantage of this because Mikal Bridges, I believe, is due up for an extension this summer. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I know Jalen Brunson is due for an extension after next year. So, and you're paying Karl-Anthony Towns all that money already. So, and they got to get this right. You mentioned Jay Wright. As we told you on the show that he was not going to be interested in coaching this team. He's enjoying his life on television for CBS. But you got to find a head coach with a resume because that coach is going to be on a 2-year deal, at least for the Knicks are in a window for 2 years to get this right. Because if they don't, you looking at this year, which was a big step up, is going to be a thorn on the wayside. You have to start all over again. And the way that this Knicks franchise has been operating over the last, before Tibbs got there, remember, they were a clown show. Remember the end of the Carmelo Anthony run ended ugly. Remember Isaiah Thomas with the Eddie Curry situation and with him going through some stuff off the court. I'm talking about Isaiah Thomas. That was not good. Remember Larry Brown? They hired him before then. That didn't go well. So the Knicks got to get this right. And Leon Rose and owner James Dolan looks like he stepped out of the way. They've done a great job of reestablishing the culture and the identity over the last 4 or 5 years. But if they get this coaching situation not right, if they don't get this right, they're going to have to be starting all over again. And those fans in New York are going to turn on them real quick.
To be continued, as they say. So I'm sure we're going to be hearing some weird stuff happening, throughout these next couple weeks. So we'll see what happens here as the Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. Now let's do that hockey, Sid. A thrilling game 4, and of course it all started, with 3 goals by the Panthers in the first period. Including 2 power play goals by Matthew Tkachuk. Then, of course, the Oilers strike right back with 3 goals of their own, tying it. Jake Wallman, scored the go-ahead goal. We thought was a go-ahead goal in the third period, but not so fast. So set him right up with 20 seconds left in the third period. He scores to tie it for the Panthers, and of course, Leon Draisaitl scored the game winner there for the Oilers. Now the series is tied. Now it's a best of 3, and I think we were hoping that this would be the case here. So, say, what do you think of that thrilling game 4 last night?
I thought that when the Florida tied it up, they automatically got the momentum back, because you watched most of that third period. Edmonton, they were the aggressive team. Now I thought that the Panthers sat back, and like you said, they got caught with their pants down. But after Leinhart scored the game-tying goal, I said Florida's going to win this game and going to take control of their series. But I don't know about you, Lakeena, but Leon Draisaitl, he's clearly your playoff MVP, whether the Edmonton Oilers win it or not. He's been the best player for both these teams throughout this series. I know Reinhart will have something to say about that on the flip side for Florida, but Draisaitl has been clearly the MVP of both teams in this series. But the word was going into game 4. Remember, we talked about Skinner, their goalie, not playing well. He may not have. Some people say he shouldn't have started, but I know he didn't look well last night. But the Edmonton Oilers has shown the fight throughout these playoffs, where you think you got them down, they keep finding a way to come back. And last night was a perfect example. But I wanted to point out a couple of key statistics here as far as last night's game. We talk about doing the little things all the time as far as hockey in the playoffs. Check this out. Block shots, plus 15 advantage for Edmonton, 28-13 to the Panthers. In total penalties, it was pretty much even a clean game. 2 for 4 on the power play for the Panthers, 1 for 4 for the Edmonton Oilers. And also in hits, 25-34 for the Panthers. Well, most of those hits came early in the game, but you could tell that in the middle of that third period, if Florida was sitting back, they were starting to get fatigued. Edmonton picked up the pace and the energy wherever they had left. They took over the game. They had the lead late before the Panthers tied it. But I think fatigue is starting to set in. I think we talked about this on our last show on Monday. Now we know we're guaranteed to have a game 6. So we're going to see who has the nutrition and the stamina from here on out, because Florida looked they are tired. They look kind of tired to me. And we mentioned with the first 2 games of the series going into deep into overtime in both those games. Now we're going to see who has enough juice left to finish this off.
Yeah, so and I think goaltending, like you said, probably might be a thing here for the Oilers now. Skinner had 14 saves, and of course he got pulled for Calvin Pickard. He ended up 22 saves, so he might get the start tomorrow for the Oilers. And the Panthers are concerned. You did see that they were starting to kind of get exhausted. Look, this is their third overtime game in those 4 Cup Final games, and you can tell that could weigh on a team a little bit. No matter how good of a shape you're in this time of year, especially. So you wonder, well, is fatigue starting going to play a factor here tomorrow, because they got to go back to Edmonton, and you don't get an extra day's rest. So this is a travel day. So we'll see if game 5, we'll see who has the energy, because if you're Edmonton, you want to try to see if you can win this series, get the edge here at home, so you can go back on the road, for Florida next week and perhaps maybe try to win it.
Yeah, you mentioned about the no extra days off. You won't get an extra day off until this time next Friday if there's a game 7. So, like we said before, who has the most energy left to finish this off, knowing that we're going to have a game 6 on Tuesday. Game 6 will be on Tuesday. We'll be here on Second City Sports on Monday to preview that game. But whoever has the most energy to finish this off, obviously, is going to win this series. So fatigue is becoming a factor. And like you, Lakeena, if I'm Edmonton, this really is the best 2 out of 3, possibly out of 3 now. So if Jeff Skinner is benched, so be it. You don't have no more time to fool around. You tied the series by winning last night in overtime. All systems is a goal now. You treat each game as a game 7. So if Skinner gets benched tomorrow night, so be it. We got a hockey game to win.
And if you're Bobrowski, you want to try to perhaps maybe see if you can, do kind of stay in your head tight games like it did last year in last year's finals. So you want to try to get that going. Hopefully, you can get his confidence up there. But yeah, I think if you're Edmonton, you want to try to see you got the home ice, so you want to try to see if you can get the edge here. Because if not, you don't want to be having to go to Florida and hoping not to lose like it did last year. So we'll see what happens. Should be an interesting game tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night's game 5 between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. Their best-of-7 series is tied up at 2 games apiece. 2 games apiece. Can be seen on TNT, True TV, and Max app starting at 7 o'clock Chicago time. That's tomorrow night on TNT.
All right, our sports potpourri segment is coming up next. Of course, we'll have an update for the U.S. Open down in Oakmont, just outside Pittsburgh. Also, too, we got some sports media news. Of course, we got our final when Lee Corso will finally get his headgear. Dick Vitale is staying with ESPN. He scored another 2-year deal and other stuff as well. Of course, we remember 3 icons for the world of music and pop culture as well, and also entertainment. So we got all that to do still coming next. Lakeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Our potpourri segment coming up right after this.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
Do you know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Okay, is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe. But some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
When I'm flying, I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am. Whether I'm African American, Asian American, Hispanic, white, male or female. You just know I'm an American Airman, kicking your butt. I'm General C.Q. Brown Jr. Come join us.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. So, you have any questions or comments for us? Any of the topics that we discussed thus far on today's show? And we're going to get into Lakeena's PGA Tour US Open update, our salute to past legends, and sports media news, and a whole lot more for this segment. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, where do you want to go first? Because we know we got a lot to talk here.
Give the people your PGA Golf Tour US Open update. I know there's a few golfers out there.
All right, so the PGA, the U.S. Open is in Oakmont, which is, for those of you who don't know, this is just outside Pittsburgh. And Jay Spaun, of course, a veteran PGA player, he is the leader right now at 4 under. He's in the 5th hole there, followed by fellow American Sam Burns, who's a shot back. Also, Thurston Lawrence from South Africa. He's at -3. Brent Griffin at -2. This is why I wish we had our girl Christy Mack for character, because her guy Victor Hovland is in the top 5. He's in the clubhouse right now. He actually had one of the better scores after Burns. Burns had a 5 under. Hovland had 2 under. He's now in the top 5 right now. Tied with Siwoo Kim, he's on the course right now. He just started. Also, Adam Scott, former Masters champion. He's in the top 10 right now. Xander Schauffele, of course, Masters champion. Thomas Dietrich, the veteran European player from Belgium. Victor Perez from France, among others. Brooks Koepka, I know he just started, but he hasn't had a good round so far. He's at 4 over, so not a good showing for him. And Scotty Scheffler, he's tied for 34. So for those who wonder where he is, Bryce DeChambeau, who has a couple of these U.S. Opens, unfortunately, he's at 3 over right now. John Rahm, who you thought that maybe he could contend, he was in the top 12, but yeah, he hasn't had a good showing either. He's at 5 over. So Oakmont's becoming like a murderer's row here for some players. It actually favors guys like your Victor Hovlands and your JJ Spawns and guys like that, and Brooks Koepka too, if he can get it going here. I know Spieth's up there is down there too, so he's at tied for 56 right now. So yeah, some of the players that may miss a cut, of course, you got Tony Finau, Patrick Reed. He did not have a good showing yesterday in that last 9 holes. So yeah, the U.S. Open, it could be your friend, but it could also be your foe as well. And we're seeing it this week. This year is no different.
I know entering today, I know we have Burns also an American who's in second place right now with a -3. Of course, Ben Griffith's at a -2. Do you think either of those two guys have a shot to get a shot at the final go around on Sunday? Do you think either of those guys have a shot?
Yeah, I think they could. I think Griffin's been up there this year for a lot. He's been close to winning a couple of those PGA tournaments, so he is right there. So yeah, but like usually the U.S. Open, you got guys that I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but guys that you probably I don't want to say obscure, but we saw with Larry Nelson years ago. Curtis Strange won back-to-back in '89 and '90. So yeah, we've seen guys, Americans that kind of are kind of have it right there with other majors, but then the U.S. Open is kind of their thing. So we'll see. We'll see if either one of them does. Like I said, Victor Hovland, of course, it's been a while since he's been in the winner's circle, so he might be due. Adam Scott, he might be due getting back to the winner's circle too in a major. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a nice mix of both guys. Also, Jackson Colvin, who is an amateur, he's only like 19. He's right there too in the top 11 as well. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of guys that are gonna be in the mix. I know Keegan Bradley is there as well. So like I said, the U.S. Open is very interesting in that sense. So yeah, we could see a nice mixture of guys that the majors, guys that won majors, guys who have been right there, guys who are obscure. So yeah, it's a nice mix with the U.S. Open. So that's what makes the U.S. Open fun.
And you can catch the coverage on the Golf Channel and NBC this week. I know that Trey Ringo, I heard him on a national radio show the other day that he's hosting on NBC and Pickout. So it's nice to see Trey Ringo, former ESPN anchor, back on television again. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Let's dive into some sports media news, and we go back to the NBA. And I saw this today, courtesy of our good friends at Alpha Announcing. Blake Griffin former NBA player who's going to be one of the top analysts, I believe, on Amazon starting next year with Dirk Nowitzki. Did he let did he let a little something out? He said that maybe Kyle Lowry be joining the broadcasting crew late next year. What's the latest on that?
Well, yeah. Well, we know that I've heard like some things where like he's gonna be. I know he said that he's basically retired. Basically, he hasn't like officially retired yet, but he is retiring. I guess that's kind of thing here. So if he does, look, I think he could do either or. Where he was a standout in college at Villanova, so I could see contributing in their college is someone's college hoops up coach coverage. But the NBA, the Prime Video team is that you got Griffin, Nowitzki, Haslam, Candace Parker, Steve Nash. Like, is there room for Lowry? I mean, look, money won't be an issue for them to pay him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. But yeah, I think it could be a good contribution with any of it. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And speaking of the NBA, I think I saw something right. Oh, I can't find. I can't find it. But on to other news. I know we haven't talked about this show yet for Old School TV Monday, but I know we will down the road, maybe sooner rather than later. But Chris Rose, who was the former pregame host for MLB on Fox, he did some football as well for Fox many years ago. The American Gladiators reboot adds Chris on as the play-by-play announcer. Remember us growing up, Lakeena, Saturday afternoons. I think it was at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock on the old Channel 50, the power station here in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie to you. We're not going to try to get into it too much here. We'll save it for down the road. But the American Gladiators, I thought it was fake at first, but some of the extreme sports and the other show that you see today, you got to think the American Gladiators. Hopefully, this reboot it'll live up to what we saw as kids, as teenagers growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I mean, they tried it before. NBC tried to do a reboot of the Gladiators before with Hulk Hogan and Layla Ali. It didn't last. So I'm a little skeptical here. This version is going to be on Amazon Prime. So we'll see if they can let's see if they can do a little bit better with their coverage. But like I said, we'll talk about it. But yeah, a lot of the American Gladiators, a lot of the episodes are on YouTube. I thought it was an interesting concept. So yeah, so we'll see if he is a good look. He's hosted various other shows similar to this before. We're talking about Chris Rose. So he could definitely help the coverage out a bit.
And of course, he's the current host for NFL Network's Sunday Game Day Final, and you can check him out there. Other sports media news, I'm trying to find it here. Going back to basketball, Scripps Sports extends WNBA on Ion Friday night games deal.
Yeah, I mean, there's been like, I guess this is kind of like put the Ion on the map. I think like some people really couldn't find Ion Network. I know it's on Channel 38 here in Chicago.
Old school TV 38.
Yeah, so but yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, look, it's done well for them. So okay, I mean, like I said, I don't watch WNBA like that. I'll admit that, but again, look, more eyeballs, and like I said, they've had good ratings for. I think they've had about 700,000 viewers. I think that's the most that they've had so far from the coverage. Is like the second. This is like the third or fourth year they've done it. So it's fine. It's fine. Not a surprise.
All right, this is the longest we have gone without mentioning the letters NFL. I want to ask you, do you subscribe to Netflix at all?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Question for you. I know that the Dallas Cowboys documentary is supposed to come out soon about that team in the 90s, and Jerry Jones is supposed to be the centerpiece of all this. Are you looking forward to it? Because I know there's been videos here on YouTube about it. There's been other features mentioned about those 90s scenes. We all heard the stories about Charles Haley doing some on the assistant coach's desk. We won't get into that here. We heard about the stories about the White House using air quotes. If those know what I'm talking about, you know. But I'm interested to see. I don't have Netflix at this point, but I'm kind of interested to see how the NFL films let Netflix use its footage from back in the day. How will this documentary be? Will they tell everything? How will this be slanted to the Jerry Jones story? Just like Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, it was a Michael Jordan story. I kind of want to see how well it had that quote-unquote Last Dance doc feel to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how much is done. I mean, they didn't really. Well, remember when they did the ESPN did those sports centuries, with Emmett Smith. Of course, he made the top 50, and they really didn't delve into too much about it. So it's going to be interesting to how much they delve into. Of course, we know that Jerry Jones wants to be the center. Shocker. And it'll be interesting to see, if you see guys like Smith and Aikman and Irvin, of course. Will we see guys like Daryl Moose Johnson, Daryl Woodson, the Haley stuff. I mean, like I said, we won't get into it, but like I said, Google's your friend, folks. I know as great as players as was, his exploits off the field is just as well known. So I'll leave it there. But yeah, it's gonna be. I might check it out a little bit. I'm sure it's gonna be. Even if you don't have Netflix, I'm sure they're gonna have. It's gonna be available. Someone's gonna post on YouTube, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how far do they go with this.
I know Amazon did one, I believe it was last year, about Barry Sanders after the NFL Films did one about him of football, which was very good. But I didn't get a chance to check it out yet. But I heard that Amazon's version of the Barry Sanders story was very good. Did you get a chance to check it out? If so, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was really good. It kind of got more in depth. I mean, I think it went a little bit more in depth until when of course NFL Network does a football life. It gets even more in depth, and of course we want to send our best wishes to him because he admitted that he had a heart attack late last year. That's why you didn't see him very much on the sidelines. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Netflix does it with this particular the documentary here.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. I wanted to, before we get to our tributes, excuse me, before we get to our tributes to the legends that passed away this week, did you? I'll be honest with you, Lakeena, I have not watched an award show. Be honest with you, I have not watched an award show in about 22 years. The last award show I watched was MTV Music Awards. That was in 2003. The whole Britney, Madonna, Christina Aguilera thing. Those of you that don't know, YouTube's your friend. And the last time I watched the BET Awards, it was the first year that they did. Remember Michael Jackson and James Brown had that dance off? That was their first award show. I thought that was the best moment of all time for that award show. I know a couple years later, Miss Comedian, Miss Monique did that tribute to Beyonce with the whole booty dance and all that. But outside of that, I have not watched an award show in about 22, 23 years because I think that is all garbage now. Yes, I know music changes and generations and all that garbage, but I did see some things on social media the other night regarding the BET Awards, which I didn't know it was held up on Monday. I saw some tributes. Ashanti did her thing. Teddy Riley did his thing. Babyface did his thing. And I thought that those tributes to those artists were very well done. Did you get a chance to see the program, or at least get to see some clips via social media?
I saw the clips. Like I said, I don't watch the BET Awards like that, but I did see the 106 and Park reunion.
That was great. Yes.
Yeah, seeing all those folks there, and apparently, I guess they're going to be doing a sports version of it with Cam Newton. I read so.
And Ashley Nicole Moss from CBS Sports. Yes.
Yeah. So CBS Sports, I think headquarters. I think she does because I've seen her on there doing their sports updates and such. So yeah, they're gonna do a kind of like a similar version of that. I guess the top plays, the top videos on social media, sports wise. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, I saw that. I don't really watch any of the other stuff because it's just like you said. I think music evolves. A lot of today's music doesn't really appeal to me. So I mean, if you want, but yeah, but you all know it's true. You know. So I just watch a lot of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. Quote our good friend. Hopefully you can join us on the program down the road. But as our good friend Jay Hood would say out of ESPN Chicago, everything's not for me. So we have to understand that. So speaking of Cam Newton and Ashley Nicole Moss, I will say this: Cam Newton has done very well for him. In this space on YouTube following his retirement for the NFL a couple years ago. Yes, a couple of YouTube shows. And, of course, he's been filling in on ESPN's First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Mari Kiram. He's been doing a nice job there. Of course, Ashley and Nicole Moss. Yes, Ashley has a nice podcast right here on YouTube called Triple Threat. It's out of CBS Sports, and she covers basketball. She's been doing a nice job. You mentioned she also does updates on CBS Sports HQ, so she's been doing a nice job. I think it's going to be a good mix of as long as they do it right, appeal to their audience, especially to that crowd that checks for clips on social media. I think they'll do a fine job. But that show's going to premiere in the fall, and hopefully they'll give their show room to grow. Hopefully both of them do a nice job at it.
Yeah, so yeah, they already have a good nice rapport. So we'll see what happens with that on that front with that show. Lee Corso, of course, the legendary analyst for College Game Day. He's gonna be of course he's gonna be retiring, and he's gonna go. It's gonna be a full circle moment for him because they're gonna be doing their first trip of the season will be right where they first began. Of course, the first ever headgear he did was during Ohio State.
What a surprise!
Yeah, now way back in 1995. So of course they're going to be in Columbus for that series at week 1. So of course they host Texas. So that's going to be interesting. They'll rematch, of course, of the national championship. Well, the playoff is the playoff semifinal, I should say. So be interested to see what they do here. Of course, you're going to be seeing all types of moments and stuff like that. I'm sure it's going to be a cast of thousands there in Columbus for his last. We'll see who he picks, but yeah, that's gonna be his final appearance where it all began in Columbus.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how many celebrities going to be there. Could it be 5? Could it be 10? Could it be 100? This really that opening weekend I'm sure will break records on how many people watch that ESPN College Game Day. Of course, people were worried that when Chris Fowler moved on to do play-by-play, that the show will take a step back. No, Reese Davis has done a phenomenal job. As we talked about before, Nick Saban, he's kind of filled in that role of Lee Corso very nicely. He has a little bit of a personality. I know he's relaxed now because he doesn't have to worry about all the extra BS around college football anymore, being a former head coach. So he's really taking a liking to yours surely. So that show, I guarantee you, is going to be one for the ages.
Could be, like I said, it'll probably break a lot of records on. If not, probably, I'm sure it's going to be on YouTube as well. I'm sure whatever viral moment is. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. Of course, Sean McDonough, he's become anonymous. Of course, unfortunately, he called the Stanley Cup Final last year for ESPN. He said he doesn't want to slow down. He said, look, he's turning 63 this year, and he still wants to keep going. He's had his various health issues and those type of things, but he said he wants to keep calling hockey and college football and hoops games. And like you said, he doesn't want to slow down. Plus, his wife is basically wants him out of the house. So he's not going to be retired anytime soon.
No, that's nothing else to add. You just pretty much said it all. Although, in my opinion, even though he is the voice of hockey right now, I wish it was John Buccigross, because remember, no one was more excited than him when the NHL returned to ESPN a couple years ago. So I know he does selective games. I know Bob Wischusen, who's the radio voice for the New York Jets during the football season, he does hockey as well for ESPN. But I wish John Buccigross, in my opinion, was the number one voice. But I understood why the network didn't go with him on that. But Sean McDonough is a pro. As long as he's healthy enough to do, he should be allowed to do it.
Yep, absolutely. And apparently, Justin Turner's fake testicle, I guess, celebration.
Oh, the Sam Cassell move from back in the day.
Yeah. Apparently, I guess when of course when that was interesting yesterday when Suzuki hit that home run. Of course, that kind of that kind of like sealed the win there for the Cubs in that first game against the Pirates. They took a picture. They had a photo of Turner celebrating. Of course, his testicle fell out, but it was a fake one. So and you didn't hear Buscemi or Jindeshays. They were silent until the next play. They didn't say anything. I mean, that's what made it funny to me, because they didn't say anything. They couldn't. Well, what could you say at that moment? So, centers, I tell you, and I'm sure the centers and practices there were very happy with that.
Yeah, you're responsible for yourself at all times. So wherever what you say, you could be held responsible for. So both those guys are professionals, and yeah, you have to play it safe and be careful out there, folks.
Anything else before we remember these three legends that passed away this week?
I think I'm not gonna say out of the tank, but I am shutting it down as far as the sports media segment is concerned.
Well, also too, just a special note there. Of course, Caitlin Clark will be back tomorrow as a Fever host, New York. So, and I believe that game will be on ABC. So yeah, just in time for that. So,
ABC, yes.
yep. So yeah, they host the Fever host the Liberty. So that'll be Caitlin Clark's return back from the quad injury. So hopefully she'll be good to go there. Also, of course, if you're a college baseball fan, the men's college World Series starts in Omaha. Starting that's going on right now as we speak. So among some of the favorites, of course, you got Arizona, Oregon State. Of course, one of the Cinderellas is the Murray State Racers. They're there for the first time. The Chanticleers, who won a few years ago, they're actually up against Arizona right now. So yeah, so all you college baseball fans out there, the Men's College World Series will be on the ESPN family networks throughout this weekend.
Yeah, I know many Comfort fans, some Comfort fans are worried about why Taylor McGregor has not been working for us. Well, she's doing the College World Series for ESPN.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and at least Manicure, who's been filling for her nicely, has done a nice job.
Yes. So that's why she's not there. So for those of you who are wondering where is she at, yeah, don't worry, folks.
Because I know it's about one or two of them that caught on later. Taylor's not there. Now you know why.
Yes, you do. So relax, folks. Relax. Like I said, she's not sick. She's not on her weather. Though she's just on her assignment in Omaha doing the College World Series. So chill, guys.
Right. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See Lakeena here with you. We still have a few minutes left on our hashtag Friday Fun Edition. This is our sports potpourri segment. This is our last break of the show for today and for the weekend. So, if you have any last minute questions or comments for us, any of the subjects that we have discussed on today's show thus far, head over to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And if you're watching us on the replay, you still have a comment about what we said, whether you agree or disagree, just put it down below in the comment section. We will both read them and read them accordingly.
Now, I know we always say we want to leave them laughing, but we want you guys to kind of do some remembering here. Of course, the three people who passed away who had a big impact on music, sports to some extent, even pop culture too. So we'll start with Sly Stone. He passed away at the age of 82 earlier this week on Monday. And of course, he was a singer-songwriter. Of course, his band, The Family Stone. Of course, you guys have heard all his songs, songs like Everyday People, I Get High on You, or Everyone's a Star, Dancing in Music, among other big hits. I'm sure it's been sampled. These songs have been sampled at various points.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys have heard some of those songs on your in like 80s music in the 80s and the 90s. He was also a producer as well. So Family Affair is another big hit. So I think he was definitely one of those guys where he was very eccentric, but yet he let his music kind of do the talking. He was very quiet and stoic, but he kind of let his music and his songwriting and his lyricists do the talking there.
Yeah, he is also a creator and an innovator as well. His band was the first integrated band that infused pop, rock, funk, R&B all into one. And like you said, they made some great music. Now we're in the month of June. Don't forget Hot Fun in the summertime. I'll definitely be listening to that as soon as we get off of here. But that band broke barriers. They performed everywhere, Woodstock, on Soul Train, various TV shows throughout the years. And I don't know if you saw this commentary, Lakeena, but Carson Daly, who used to work at MTV back in the day, he's on NBC now on Today's Show. He said, without Sly Stone, you would not have the likes of these artists with Dr. Dre, Prince, Rick James, and those others to follow. So he was, talking about Sly Stone, was an innovator. He was a creator, and he just let himself let it all hang out with his music. And he was very thoughtful as well. And just a little personal story real quick, because if those of you that don't know, we were born in 1980 and 81 respectively, and the first time I ever heard Sly Stone's music was Dance to the Music. Of course, as I said before in the show, my late mom and her family friend who lives with me in my building, they had the tickets to the Bulls games back in the day. But if you went, I don't know if they do it now because I haven't been to a Bulls game in about 10 years. But back in the day at the old Chicago Stadium, whenever Scotty or Michael had a big play, a big dunk, or Craig Hodges, the original three-point king here in Chicago, whenever he hit a big 3-pointer. They always play Dance to the Music, and that was the first time I ever heard of Sly and the Family Stone. Of course, I heard his other songs throughout the years with her Kendall, my late mom, playing it throughout the house. And of course, if you remember Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation song from 1989, the main title song for that album, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis sampled Sly Stone's song. Thank you. I forgot. My brain is scrambling for a moment, but they sampled a Sly and the Family Stone song for Rhythm Nation. So if you listen to it closely, especially at the beginning, you know it's a Sly and Family Stone record. So
yeah, you had it right. It was Thank You. It was Thank You. You got it right.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thought
You
so.
had it
Thank
right.
you. So his music has been sampled from the likes of hip hop, R&B, pop, everywhere. So we talked about James Brown being the most sampled artist of all time. Sly Stone is right up there as well. So, and also too, I almost forgot about this, and I just saw this a few months ago. But do you remember him? Talking about Sly Stone, he did a song with Jesse Johnson from Morris Day in the Time, "Crazy for You All the Time."
Oh yeah.
They came out, I believe it was
song.
like 85 and 86. I was like, I forgot he collaborated with him on that song. But that's another song that people don't talk about all the time. I know, of course, Jesse Johnson had a great solo career after leaving the Prince and the Morris Day in the Time band. So, but Sly Stone, as I mentioned, he's a creator, innovator, and he was way ahead of his time. And his music and his legacy will definitely live on forever.
Absolutely. So rest in peace to Sly, and you'll definitely be hearing his music a lot, I'm sure. Now, another musician singer-songwriter who passed away a couple of days ago, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Of course, singer, record producer. He was also a co-founder of the Beach Boys. Of course, you guys know for their hits, "Good Vibrations," "California Girls," "Surfing USA." And you heard the song a lot during the 80s, Full House. Of course, we haven't done that show yet for Old School TV Monday. Kokomo, that was a big hit. Of course, John Stamos for Full House did the drums during that song. And of course, they also made TV appearances at various points during that one. And one of the founders there, and of course, the music kind of runs in his family too. Of course, you guys know two of his daughters, Whitney and Cardi Wilson. Of course, they made up Wilson Phillips, but China Phillips. We'll talk about them at some point for Old School TV Monday as well. But yeah, he was also very influential in that. It was very, he's very subtle when it comes to his music. He didn't need like big bands or anything like that. He just got to let the words and the melodies come out, and that's what in his case, exactly what he did. Sort of a flip side from Sly Stone, but he was also just as effective too with his music.
I wasn't a big fan of theirs. I knew other music because, like you said, their music were featured in movies and various TV shows, and they were featured in a lot of commercials as well. They were one of the first bands that had that had harmonization. That it was the center of their music. And the first time I knew or heard anything about the Beach Boys was, like you said, that episode on Full House. And remember, they were singing and dancing on stage with them at the end, talking about the cast of Full House at the end of the episode. So I remember that like it was yesterday. I saw that clip on social media the other day. So I know their importance to popular music. I know they did not have a big, strong Black American fan base. I'm not saying Black Americans didn't listen to their music. I know there was some that did, but they were important to the culture as well. And we talked about Soul Train. We talked about American Bastard in particular last year, but they were one of the first big cats to get on Bandstand. That's how their music grew as well. So I know about the important contributions to popular music that band had. So like I said, my first knowledge of them was when they had their appearance on Full House, and they continue their trail and doing shows throughout the years, and so their contributions to popular music will live on forever as well.
Well, and remember too, Beyonce sampled, I think, one of their songs. I think "Good Vibrations." That was sampled by Beyonce. I think Wu-Tang I think also sampled one of their songs. I forgot which one, but I know that one of their songs that they did sample if one of the songs that he wrote, that Brian wrote. So you've heard their songs, sampled at various points, but you just didn't know it. So I think for people say, wait, but they didn't have a Black American follow. No, they have Black artists that sampled their songs. Trust me, I know. So yeah, so their music will also live on and such. Rest in peace to Brian Wilson as well, and the rest of the. I think Mike Love, I think, is the only living member of the Beach Boys. I think there might be another guy, but among the original Beach Boys. But yeah, so it's been a tough last week for folks, all the music fans out there.
This just came to me right now. Like, can you correct me if I'm wrong before we get off there? Didn't the Fat Boy sample one of their songs too, or am I crazy?
I believe you might be right. I gotta look that up real quick, but yeah, I think you're right. Let me look that up real quick. But yeah,
because I remember the hardcore hip hop fans, they weren't happy at that time because remember they sampled Chubby Checkers to Twist.
Wipeout.
People weren't happy about that, but that was it was Wipeout.
That was Wipeout.
I thought so. Yep.
That was Wipeout. Yeah. See, I told you.
Yeah, we're good again.
See, I told you. It just came to you. So yeah.
Damn it, we're good again. Yeah. That's why you listen to us. Damn it.
yeah, they did. It was Wipeout because I remember that song and I think I believe he and Mike Love were featured in that video. I think a couple of Beach Boys were featured in that music video for that song too, if I'm not mistaken.
Because I know the hardcore hip hop fans weren't happy at the time, but that was another big hit after they sampled Chubby Checkers to the Twist. So, like I said, that took the Fat Boys to a whole nother level as well. Of course, we know what happened to them after that. They got screwed by the music industry with the it affected Will. It was involving Will. Remember the Friday the 13th movie? They finally Will did that song. Did the song. New Line Cinema sued them, and then they got the Fat Boys to do the song. You never heard the song again, but we'll get to that another time. But yeah, but as far as the Fat Boys sampling, yeah, I thought so. That's why you listen to us. Damn it, we're right again.
See, yeah, you're right. Yeah, like I said, that was the big. Like I said, a couple. I think he and I think Mike Love, I think a couple of other Beach Boys actually were featured in that video. I think first for Wipeout. So yeah, they did. They sampled it in 1989. Yeah, it would be like a top 5 hit for them.
Yep. And of course, we'd like to end the tribute with the passing of Miss Ananda Lewis, who passed away at the age of 52 on Wednesday due to stage 4 breast cancer. Of course, she graduated from Howard University in 1995. That next year, she became the host of the second host of Teen Summer. We did the Teen Summer tribute last year for Old School TV Monday. Of course, she was there for a couple of years before moving on to MTV. And of course, she had her daily talk show the year of 9/11, which I thought didn't help her, unfortunately. Bad timing only because of what was going on in the world at that time. But she continued to host various television specials throughout the year. She was very vocal on social media until her last breath, especially about taking care of yourself, getting daily checkups and things along that line. But Ananda Lewis represented class, dignity, true, pure beauty, and authenticity. And that's what I liked about her the most, because not to get onto a tangent here, Lakeena, but we see people that look like us in negative stereotypical roles that get the most props. But when it comes to Ananda Lewis, yours truly was proud. So you need something to combat those negative stereotypes. She was one of them. She was the it girl of the 90s and the early 2000s.
Well, yeah, like I said, when she first passed, she was that girl for the reasons you said. And I think she definitely changed the way, like I said, she was very soft spoken. She was very she was very smart. She had charisma. She was very lovely. She was a very beautiful woman, and I think that kind of helped her catapult her into the mainstream. And I remember Carson Daly, speaking of, I know because they worked there for a little bit at MTV, and he said that she was one of the, not only was one of the professional, but she was also one of the classiest people he ever worked with. And I think that kind of sort of broke a lot of doors down for folks who look like us, especially for Black females. And I think she stayed true to herself. I know some people said, oh, she wasn't Black enough, she wasn't that, but yeah, she represented the culture well. And look, she didn't do anything outrageous, but that's a good thing. So she definitely did it with class and dignity, and I think she should definitely be remembered for that.
Yes, and like you said, with her being a television host, you had to be yourself, but you had to relate to everybody. She connected with white audiences, black audiences, Hispanics, everybody. So everybody could relate to her. And she also, like we talked about with the other two icons who passed away earlier this week, she was that it girl for us. We grew up with her. She's not that much older than us, so we
Mhm.
could relate to her. And by the time she went to MTV, we were both in college. So I remember, like you said, with Carson Days, whenever the days that he didn't do TRL, she was the first one up. I know you had other people like Vanessa Manillo, who's married to Nick Lachey in 98 Degrees. Hilary Burn, who's still an actress. Her child is now actually a teenager now. Go figure that we're both old like that.
Oh God.
Yeah, other people come through that door, but remember the first person who filled in for Carson Day, who when he was not there
Mhm.
at TRL, was Ananda Lewis, and she was well received, just like everybody else that came after him.
Yep, and yeah, she kind of broke the mold, if you will. So yeah, I think she
Hmm.
should definitely, yeah, she was definitely like one of those women that kind of like paved the way for other young black women, also also all women of color in the business. So she kind
Hmm.
of like opened those doors for everyone. And I think people forget that she was that it girl. Like I said, you saw her everywhere. She did the VMA, she did the movie awards. She
Hmm.
hosted shows about fashion and pop culture and stuff like that around MTV. That's why I think I saw one of the executives even said, he even said that, like, look, she broke that mold. So I think she should
Yeah.
definitely be remembered for that. And I feel like, finally, it took her dying sadly, but finally she's gained the recognition that she deserves. And there's lots of prayers to her son as well. I remember her sister said in her Facebook page that she wanted to hang on as long as she could. He just graduated from middle school, so
Yeah.
enjoy, James, I think that's his name. So James said, you hang in there, hon, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your high school career. And I know it'd be the kind of man that I think your mom would want you to be.
And also, too, a fun fact about Miss Lewis before we close up shop. I remember this song. I almost forgot about the video, but this was back in 1993. Remember Shy, Baby I'm Yours,
Yes,
which that song doesn't
yes,
get enough props. She was in that video before she graduated, before the TV success.
yeah, right. But that was kind of her first TV appearance. Yeah, so
Hmm.
yep, that's when people started noticing her. Yeah, so I forgot. Yeah, someone did post that the clip of that video. Yeah, she sure was in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, Miss Ananda Lewis, may you rest in power. Job well done.
All right, you can find my King McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Or Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Mia a follow at WARR Mia on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more game, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and all the other great content. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's content anytime, anywhere on our Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Enjoy, and also happy Father's Day to all the the dads, stepdads, all the dad figures out there. So like I said, show your appreciation for your fathers. I'm glad that the Father's Day is finally getting the pub that it deserves, because it seems like it's been for like the last decade, it's been kind of like an afterthought. I'm glad it's finally getting the pub now. Yes, there are good dads out there, folks. So if you do have one, show
yes, Papa is not a Rolling Stone.
No, exactly. Well played there. See, so so yeah, so take him out to breakfast or let him watch the U.S. Open, or what have you. So yeah, so enjoy your Father's Day weekend, all you dads out there. Celebrate yourselves and treat yourselves anytime. Well, Sunday night, Sunday, and every day.
Yes, 2 thumbs up to dads all around the world.
All right, so yeah, so so enjoy all the the golf, of course, the U.S. Open, and of course the baseball. We'll see if we're gonna when we come back on Monday with both the Stanley Cup final and the NBA finals. We'll see where they will be by the time we come back on Monday, Sid, and so much more. Of course, if you're into college baseball, you got the World Series going on right now in Omaha. So enjoy all that. For Sid, I'm like Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Holla.
Come on, race the race. Get ready.